So for my projects, I want to play around with the idea of personal space and privacy. I named it Don't Come Close. So I want to play around with distance sensor, and as you go in, you can't see the image because some obstacles are coming to hide the image that is showing. So I was first inspired by Tim Walker exhibition 3 years ago in the V&A, and there were this part, I think it's called the Chapel of Nudes, and he printed like a series of his nude photograph on like a stamp size picture and hang it, like frame it really big and hang it on a wall. And like for you to see what it is, you have to go like really close to the picture. And me and the friend that went with me were talking about like, oh, maybe it's meant to make you feel like uncomfortable, like where you have to like walk in really close up to the picture to see the picture. So I kind of want to integrate that into my project as well, like the feeling of like you want to get in closer, but then you feel kind of weird getting close to the picture. I was also inspired by this project in Bangkok Design Week 2021 that I went to. It's called Intruders, and they went to this area, borrowed a house from a local. She uses the space for storage, so they moved most of the stuff out, and then they cleared out this room. It's like medium size, and it was a collaborative project between like architecture, performance. So the architecture built like a platform for the models to interact, and they hired two performers that didn't know each other, and then they asked them to like interact within like each day. And then they also asked that each of them bring in like one material per day. So like at first it was kind of quiet, so on the second day like they brought speakers to open music. And what it's meant to make you feel is that you're intruding on their lives, because you're kind of like, how it works is it's like 10-20 minute round, and you go in, walk around the room, watch them interact, and then you just leave. So it's kind of like you're spying on their lives because they're just like chilling in their house. So taken from the two previous projects, I want to integrate the sense of privacy, personal space into my own project. So I want to find a content and then play around with distance sensor, so as you get close you can't see an image anymore, and as you walk further, like if you look at it from far away you can, but then if you walk closer you can't see it. So it's kind of like, oh, don't come close. So about the content of my video, I was reading this book After Dark by Murakami, and I really love how in some of the chapters they describe in details this girl sleeping, and the TV in her room lights up, and in the end she warps into the TV. So as a tribute to that, I had some footage that I shot a friend sleeping at odd places. So I re-edited the videos and have them as like a montage of just someone just sleeping. And while reading the book and thinking about televisions, I thought of Namjoon Park TV Buddha project. I went to it in Tate Modern a while back, and I really love how he plays around with different types of televisions and like images of people staring into the TV. I also found this website that have a really interesting coding effect. So they use collision, and the balls just kind of bounce around each other, bouncing off each surface, and you can see the content, but you can't really see it in details. So I kind of want to make something similar, but then I realized later on that it doesn't really go with my project if suddenly like there's just circles bouncing around as an obstacles. And I thought of an idea of like an image to show that you can't come close or something, but I just ended up with static instead. So this is a sketch of my final outcome. I framed a box for my wiring so it looks neat when I filmed the final video. I originally wanted to rent out this TV in LCC campus, but I didn't have time to rent out this TV. So this is my final code. I just used the basic one for ultrasonic distance sensors. From my P5 project, I've decided to put the background video in index HTML and style CSS, as it is a constant variable of this project. I also found that it uses way less line than if I were to put it in Sketch.js. It was a bit confusing ordering the layers at first, but I found a way around it. I started off by going back to week 4 prototype project with potentiometers and swap it out for ultrasonic distance sensor instead. Then I tested out this method of generating random colors, but I didn't end up using it. I then tried out this method of creating a grid with color and linked the opacity for each to change depending on the data. At this point, I realized the code would not work as the draw function in Sketch.js draws on top of the old layers instead of erasing and redrawing. And even if I code the input of the video in Sketch.js, it would still resort my video every time the canvas is redraws. My laptop almost crashed. I realized going with a photographic content might have allowed me to explore more for the obstacle element. Then I found a way to just use the mapping function instead. And this is my final outcome. Overall, I'm pretty proud of my outcome. However, I think I could have done more given the time period of the whole project, but I had just started coding with this course, so I spent most of my time being confused or not getting my code to work. I did play around with the delay time of the sensor and the amount of static coming up in according to the distance input. However, it's still kind of laggy for me. I think maybe it's because of the sensors. Sometimes the screen glitches and the whole screen turns into static, which I kind of think adds on to the aesthetic, but sometimes it happens too often. In general, I think if I have more time, I would play around with more effects and make it a bit more interactive. Maybe add a button so when you press a scenery change. But overall, I'm pretty content with the final outcome and how it turned out.